Boy, there is a real lack of social graces on the part of Romanowski.
So foul, defense number 55.
Out of control. Out of control. Suspension, fine.
A takedown there. Yeah.
We all know football. We all know that it is a game where you try to physically beat another team. You try to impose your will on another competitor. Being the competitive sport that it is, sometimes football players tend to be over-competitive. Some players are even over-emotional. Players being over-emotional can lead to dirty hits, late hits, and more. And some of these dirty actions on the field can happen over a span of their career, which can lead to them having a dirty player reputation. So let's take a look at the dirtiest players in football history.
The assassin, Jack Tatum.
He's only number 6?
He should be number 1.
Jack Tatum is one of the most feared and respected hitters in football history. He terrorized opposing offensive players with his punishing blows. He was truly one of the most intimidating and feared players during his time in the NFL. NFL films even recognize him as the 6th hardest hitter in NFL history.
Number 6 on your list as feared, number 1 as most dangerous.
Now, I don't want to paint Tatum as this dude that just wasn't good on the field and had crazy hits, because he was good on the field. He was a first rounder who was a 3-time Pro Bowler, made a 2nd team All-Pro, and won the Super Bowl. He will also have 37 interceptions in his career and 10 fumble recoveries in his career. But Tatum is still most known for delivering the hard hits, like the one he delivered against Sammy White in the Super Bowl against the Vikings.
Right down the middle again. Oh.
Tatum's most infamous hit is a hit he delivered in the preseason in 1978 against the Patriots. Patriots wide receiver Darryl Stingley was going across the middle on a slant route and Jack Tatum came and hit him. Now this was a routine hit for Tatum, but for Stingley, it would actually end his career as it paralyzed him. According to Stingley, Tatum never apologized for this hit, but according to Tatum, he tried to apologize, but Stingley's family, while Stingley was in the hospital, didn't let him. So this hit would end Stingley's career, but not only that, it will also be the hit that didn't allow Tatum to get into the NFL Hall of Fame. Of course, Tatum has multiple hard hits throughout his career, probably multiple dirty hits, even though back then they were legal. Of course though, these 2 hits were the most talked about of Tatum's career.
A takedown there.
At Nebraska, Ndamukong Suh became one of the best interior defensive linemen of all time. Suh was so good that he finished top 4 in Heisman voting in his last season in college. And in 2010, Suh would be drafted with the number 2 overall pick. It didn't take Suh too long to make an impact during his rookie season, as he was a good player, but it also didn't take too long for him to earn a dirty player reputation. The first dirty incident you can say happened back in the preseason of 2010, where Ndamukong Suh grabbed Jake Delhomm's face mask and he threw him to the ground. When asked about this play, Suh would say he was going for the ball and he had no clue that Delhomme had gotten rid of it. Later in that year against the Chicago Bears in December, Suh would tackle Bears quarterback Jay Cutler by throwing a forearm or a punch, as some people think. Then the next year in 2011, he would have a hard tackle against Andy Dalton in the preseason. And this seemed dirty because it was the preseason, in which, you know, it's preseason. You're not supposed to really go so hard, especially if you were a starter. On Thanksgiving Day in 2011 against the Green Bay Packers, Packers center Evan Dietrich Smith would get into an altercation with Ndamukong Suh. And after the play, Suh would then push Smith's head to the ground and then stomp on his arm. Suh was then ejected from the game and he was suspended for 2 games after this altercation. Now, it was reported that Smith was told to untie Suh's shoe any chance he got, so it explains why Suh was so mad. Now, before Suh has even played 2 full seasons in the NFL, he racked up over $40,000 in fine money. That amount would soon go up the next season, as in 2012, Suh would end up kicking Matt Schaub, Texans quarterback, in the groin. For that kick, Suh was fined $30,000. Now, another incident happened between Suh and Aaron Rodgers, of course the Packers star quarterback, in 2014. Suh would step on Aaron Rodgers' ankle, then step on it again and pretend like he didn't know Aaron Rodgers was right there. Now, there were other dirty plays for Suh, as he had a low block against John Sullivan in 2013. He also had a questionable tackle against Brandon Whedon in 2013 as well. But for the later part of his career, Suh turned his reputation around and was a clean player. He would even help the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl in 2021. He's also been named to the All-Pro team 5 times and to the Pro Bowl 5 times. Suh would definitely be a Hall of Famer, but I wonder if his reputation will follow him 5 or 10 years from now.
Now let's be honest about it. Conrad Dobler was a self-styled and a factual dirty player.
Conrad Dobler, they called him Dirty. He was a pioneer of the chop block and the head slap, which are both outlawed in today's NFL. He was a maestro of the leg whip, and he gouged eyes, twisted face masks. He did every little thing to get under people's skin. He didn't care who you were, whether you were NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle or legendary NFL head coach John Madden. Dobler was on the cover of the 1977 version of Sports Illustrated magazine titled as Pro Football's Dirtiest Player. Conrad's dirty playstyle goes all the way back to his high school days where he played basketball and football. He once said that he thinks he had more fouls than the second string had points. I can just imagine him looking like 2023-2024 Jeremiah Green out there.
Draymond. The reason Draymond went so demonstrably is that Gobert had...
Dobler even once said he'll do anything he can get away with. This explains why he loved wearing a club over his hand when his hands were broken, and it explains why he once bit an NFL player's finger. According to thebigredzone.com, a player put his finger through Dobler's face mask and Dobler decided to bite it. Now, of course, using these dirty tactics will build up a reputation and it will make players not like you, and that's why Marilyn Olsen didn't like Dobler. Olsen said that Dobler kicked him in the head in the game, and of course Dobler denied that. He just said he tripped over his head. Now, believe who you want to believe, but of course with Dobler's reputation, I'm probably leaning towards Olsen's story. Olsen didn't like Dobler so much because of this incident that in the 1975 Pro Bowl, he said if he sees Dobler, he's going to punch him straight in his nuts. It was even reported that Dobler spit on an injured Bill Burgley, and Dobler never ran from his reputation, as he even made a book called They Call Me Dirty. Dobler was a solid player for his time, but he'll all be recognized and remembered as a dirty player and one of the dirtiest players in NFL history. Brandon Meriweather was a headhunting safety during the late 2000s and early 2010s. Most dirty players of all time list, you'll see Brandon Meriweather between like a 15 and 9 spot. I honestly think he should be higher. Now, Meriweather was a Pro Bowler in 2009 and 2010, but in 2010, it would be his first incident being a dirty player. In a game against the Ravens, he would hit Todd Heap, Ravens tight end, with a helmet-to-helmet tackle, and he would be fine. Meriweather would get cut by the Patriots, and he would sign with the Bears, where he would have a dirty hit against Steve Smith, and then a week later he would have an unnecessary roughness penalty against a Lions player. Now, the dirtiest plays I remember Meriweather making is when he was in Washington and he was facing the Chicago Bears. The first one coming against Alshon Jeffrey, where Alshon Jeffrey caught the ball, but Meriweather launched himself at him. Then it was another play against Brandon Marshall, where Brandon Marshall didn't catch the ball in the end zone, and Meriweather still decided to launch himself at him. Meriweather probably got plenty of other dirty plays, but I just wanted to mention him because he's one of the first dirty players I remember playing football. Now, is Meriweather the dirtiest player in NFL history? No, but I just had to put him on this list because sometimes I swear he just used to go out there and headhunt.
Personal foul, defense number 55.
Out of control. Out of control.
I think most people would agree that Vontaze Burfict is either one or two dirtiest players of all time. The crazy thing is, his rookie season when he came into the league, he was actually kind of a clean player. As his first year, he didn't have no fines and no suspensions, but his second year, he had 4 fines that included hitting a Packers player in the groin, spearing a Jets player, hitting a defenseless wide receiver on the Packers, and just a face mask penalty. He got a couple fines in 2014, one including for twisting Cam Newton and Greg Olsen's ankle in the same game. In 2016, he got his most notorious fine and suspension being in a wildcard game against the Steelers. Antonio Brown was going to catch the ball over the middle when Burfict came and smacked him with his shoulder, as Antonio Brown was a defensive receiver, so this resulted in a fine and a suspension, and the Bengals lost the game. Then in 2017, he was fined for hitting Chiefs fullback Anthony Sherman. Not only was he fined $1 million, he was also suspended for 3 games. This was also the same year that Juju laid him out on that big hit. 2018, he was fined a couple times. He was suspended due to PEDs. Then in 2019, when he got signed to the Raiders, he had one of the most dirtiest hits I've ever saw. Colts player Jack Doyle had just caught the ball and his knee was on the ground, but he wasn't down, but Burfict launched himself at Doyle anyways. This dirty hit would basically be the end of his career, and he wouldn't be signed to another team after this. Burfict would be suspended for over 22 games in his career, and he would be fined a total of $5.3 million in his career.
Talking to Bill Romanowski. Ooh, and there is a real lack of social.
Bill Romanowski is arguably the dirtiest player in football history. Bill Romanowski played the game of football with a style that made people hate him. He played football with a lot of intensity. The only problem is he didn't know how to turn it off. There was even an interview he had with 60 Minutes where he said he hit Jerry Rice as hard as he could in practice. Although he hit Jerry Rice as hard as he could in practice, the problems with Bill Romanowski wouldn't start arriving until his second year in Philadelphia. During his second season, it was reported that Bill Romanowski kicked a player 5 times in their head. 2 years later, while Romanowski was on the Broncos during a Monday Night Football game, he would become one of the most hated players in NFL history. 49ers player J.J. Stokes would get in Romanowski's face, and then Romanowski would proceed to spit in Stokes' face. This was not well received by the media or by Romanowski's teammates. Here's what star teammate Shannon Sharp had to say.
I was upset at Romanowski, not because he was white and spit in a black guy's face, because he disrespected another man. And I couldn't condone what he did simply because he was my teammate. If my brother's wrong, he's wrong. Now,
the team did get over this and they won a Super Bowl that same year. Now, when Romanowski was on the Raiders, he actually had a play against Shannon Sharp where he hooked Sharp's arm and it dislocated his elbow. From 1995 to 2002, Romanowski will rack up over $79,000 in fines. 2003 will be the end of Romanowski's football career after he punched his teammate Marcus Williams in a scrimmage and it crushed his eye socket. Williams would sue Romanowski for this punch, and thankfully he won the case. There's also a clip where he was interviewed by Colin Cowherd where he said he threw a microwave at one of his teammates. This dude Bill Romanowski was really a loose cannon on the field. Those are some players I have listed as the dirtiest players in football history. Let me know if there's some more that I should mention. And until next time, I'm out. Peace.